An artist wants to get something down and doesn't necessarily need to consider what's going to happen to that when you're framing or displaying the piece. Framing is a very open-ended thing. You can have a lot of fun with framing, even in serious environments. I'm a maker myself, so sometimes when I want to frame something, I work with the frame in mind because I'm considering the piece as a whole. Any real artist is not going to work towards a frame. So for the NSAP this year, I think we've got about 28 artists, I think, from 18 different countries around the continent. A lot of those artists are painting on different materials, doing things completely differently, and then needing to ship their artworks through to South Africa to have them framed.
We facilitate the full process of them getting their works here. All I can say is it's been quite chaotic. Some of these artists actually aren't used to this process, and some of them aren't really represented by a gallery, so it's difficult for them to send their work. We really had to coach them through it all, and they in turn helped us. What's really nice is that actually opened up this communication of us with the artists. So a lot of the artists have been calling me and telling me how they would specifically like their work to be installed, and then we can honor their voices in the space where we're going to be installing their works. This morning I was actually in the garden on a video call with one of the artists because I had to source rocks for their artwork, and so I wanted to do it with them. So I was on this video call sourcing rocks, measuring them, and it was just a really great moment for me to be with this artist in that moment, sourcing the rocks for their painting. It was great. I think that's been my favorite part of the whole thing. Getting to know these artists and really having their voices come through in the exhibition would be amazing, and that's really what I want, for them to feel like their voices are heard and honored in this exhibition.
There's definitely a dialogue on every piece, and I think that's one of the fun things that we do, is to really dial something in as to the exact point of white that we need for a certain work to make it blend in more or stand out just enough. And once you work with all those materials every single day, your tool set sort of massively increases. So we have the ability then to apply all of that to every single frame. I think that's very helpful for all the artists.
It means so much to the artist, and it's really special to have someone truly take care of something because they're passionate about it.
In this particular case, we've got very few paper artworks. Majority of them are actually canvas-based. An artist wants to get something down on a piece of paper, on a canvas, and doesn't necessarily need to consider what's going to happen towards the end when you're framing or displaying the piece. So, in some cases, we don't have enough canvas to actually stretch it properly. We had a couple of those scenarios where we sort of need to customize stretches and things to make it work with what we have. So there's a lot of those practical considerations that we need to factor in. And that sort of will push us in certain directions structurally. In some cases, you really want to add some extravagance to a piece, make it pop. And in other cases, you want the frame to completely disappear. So it depends on the context and the piece itself and what the artist is looking for.
What really helps us with Orms, especially having them as a partner, is having them frame the works and getting them auction ready. And this auction is going to happen through Strauss & Co. This is an auction that is charity auction, and it's going not only to the artists, but also to our learning center, which is something that's really important to us. Through the learning center, we can then do more sponsored visits and really get more children from disadvantaged areas into the museum space, so we can break that barrier that usually exists with museum spaces being more elitist.
The NSAP for me is one of the few important events through the year. I wish we had a lot more of those. African artists always start on a back foot. That's a fact, and any international exposure for any of them is gold. And this is a really well-balanced prize, I feel, and there is a community give back involved in that as well. So Yeah, it's just a great initiative. We need more of that in the country. We always love working with Norval. They are very composed always, which I find also something that's quite magical. But at the same time, their team is always very inclusive, and it feels more like a collaboration, and we get to problem solve things together, which I appreciate quite a lot. Otherwise, I don't think there's much else to add. Oh.
Zimbabwe.